Ya Allah.
After a leader of the Palestinian Islamic Jihad died from a hunger strike in Israeli prisons, Gaza responded very moderately by firing 104 rockets and 6 mortars into Israeli civilian areas. And Israel responded by launching airstrikes targeting Hamas military posts. I'm Justin, and this is the Israel Guys. Hello and welcome to the Israel Guys, where we believe that in a world of Jew hatred and anti-Israel propaganda, you should have a direct connection to the land and people of Israel. So you've probably seen a lot in the news recently about Israel, about rockets coming into Israel from Gaza, about maybe a hunger strike, terrorists dying, and then Hamas, and then Israel striking Gaza. So we're gonna go over all that today. First of all, a Palestinian Islamic Jihad leader, this is a terrorist, a known terrorist, he died after an 86-day hunger strike. So, yes, Israel did everything they could to save him. They tried to feed him, and even after he was found unconscious, they took him to the hospital, tried to resuscitate him, but he was already dead. So, this is a terrorist. There should be no sympathy for him here. Yet, Hamas, immediately after he died, Hamas sent out a notice which read, and this is the quote: "The criminal government of the occupation will pay the price for the elimination of Adnan and its refusal to release him. There's no option other than to persecute it for its crimes." So Hamas threatened to persecute Israel for their crimes in killing this terrorist, which they did not kill him at all. This was completely his own doing. He basically died by suicide. He did a hunger strike for 86 days, killed himself by starvation. So Hamas carried through on their word. They said they would strike Israel. So yesterday and last night, there were dozens of rockets fired into Israel from Gaza. Overall, in the last 24 hours, it was reported that 104 rockets were fired into Israel from Gaza. Now, it's not all known that it's all from Hamas, but most likely most of these rockets came from Hamas, although there are other terrorist organizations down there, such as the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, which this terrorist was a part of. So they said this was in response to this terrorist's death, but I believe it's just an excuse. They're waiting to attack Israel. They're waiting for a good reason to attack Israel, just basically for an excuse to attack Israel. Yesterday afternoon, there was a first barrage of 22 rockets. It was fired into Israel, and unfortunately, 3 foreign workers were injured in the city of Sderot. You can see there's video footage of a rocket just like stuck in the middle of the street, and several workers were injured by the shrapnel. 2 rockets struck the city of Sderot, 4 were intercepted by the Iron Dome, and 16 landed in open areas. Thankfully, they're not very good at aiming these rockets yet, but it could get worse. And then all of last night, there were dozens more rockets fired into Israel. All through the night last night, there were sirens sounding in southern Israel, and also one rocket fired towards the area. It hit the yard of a home in a kibbutz in the Hof Ashkelon region. Thankfully, there were no injuries in this attack, but the home and vehicle both sustained damage. Just to put this into perspective, I saw a tweet from 3 a.m. this morning. It was posted around there. It said, this is from someone here in Israel who is in the reserves doing reserve duty, and this is what their tweet said. It said, "It's 3:30 a.m. I'm less than 500 meters from the Gaza border doing my reserves duty. The PIJ, the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, are launching rockets incessantly. We and the shelters of the Gaza envelope have spent the night running to and from bomb shelters. Here, one has 7 seconds to take cover. Would you make it?" Guys, just think about that for a second. That is crazy. These people have 7 seconds to run for their life to make it to a bomb shelter. We're going to talk about how Israel responded with airstrikes. But first, if you're enjoying our content, make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and like and share our content across all social media platforms. Also, go follow us on other social media platforms. We're on the major platforms, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. So we would really appreciate it if you would go over there and give us a follow. So the IDF struck quite a few Hamas military sites. IDF fighter jets struck a military post, a weapons storage, weapon manufacturing site, and a training facility belonging to Hamas. Also, 2 weapon manufacturing sites belonging to Hamas headquarters, a cement manufacturing site used by Hamas for maintaining its infrastructure, a military post used by Hamas by the Hamas naval wing, and an underground terror tunnel in the southern Gaza Strip were also struck. So in all, there were about 16 airstrikes from Israel. The IDF spokesman said last night after the first airstrike, he said, quote, "The strike was carried out in response to the rocket launches from the Gaza Strip into Israeli territory earlier today. This strike significantly harms the capabilities and prevents further weapon acquisition capabilities of the Hamas terrorist organization in the Gaza Strip. The IDF holds the Hamas terrorist organization responsible for all terror activities emanating from the Gaza Strip, and it will face the consequences of the security." And then shortly after 2 a.m. this morning, the IDF launched a second round of strikes against more military targets in the Gaza Strip. The IDF said IDF fighter jets and helicopters struck a military compound that served as a training camp for Hamas military operatives. They also struck a weapons warehouse and 2 other military compounds. In all of these airstrikes, I have to mention, we have to put this straight in all of these airstrikes because there's going to be a lot of fake news coming out in the mainstream media, which we're going to talk about in just a second. But in all of these airstrikes, not one Palestinian civilian was killed or even injured. One Hamas fighter was killed, but in all of these airstrikes, 16 airstrikes, this shows you how much the IDF care about life, and they do not want in any way to harm civilians. Or they do not want to harm, injure civilians. On the other side of the picture, in the barrage of rockets yesterday, 2 Hamas rockets misfired. I told you the rockets are not the greatest yet. They misfired and they landed in Beit Hanun, which is inside Gaza. 5 innocent Gazan civilians were injured, including children. So do they care about their children? Absolutely not. Well, they might care about them, but they hate Israel even more than they love their children, which is absolutely devastating and very, very sad. After escaping the Ukraine-Russian war and settling in Israel, there are 35 orphans who need your help to feed, clothe, and support their growth as new Israelis in the Holy Land. Through Israel 365's campaign, you can help provide these children with the love, support, and resources they need to thrive. By donating to this campaign, you can make a real difference in the life of a child who desperately needs your help. Your gift will provide these children with food, clothing, and an education. They will have a safe place to call home and people who love and care for them. As Christians, we know that God has a heart for the orphaned and the fatherless. I want to encourage you to click the link in the description below to learn more and to make a donation. Your gift will help transform the life of a child and give them a hope for the future. Donate today by clicking the link in the description below. Honestly, I'm kind of tired of bashing the mainstream media all the time. It might seem like we do that a lot, but once again, I have to do it because they got this story, this conflict, you could call it, completely wrong. So I'm going to read you a couple of headlines that I found in the mainstream media, and you can let me know down in the comments below if you think that these stories are true and or if they are absolutely misleading. So this is from The Guardian. Their headline said this: Israel strikes Gaza as unrest continues after death of hunger striker. CNN said, Israel military strikes Gaza Strip in response to rocket barrage following hunger striker's death. And of course, we can always count on Al Jazeera to a horrible headline. They said this: Israel bombs Gaza as tensions rise over death of Qadr Adnan, which was the terrorist who died from the hunger strike. And then the BBC said, Israel strikes Lebanon and Gaza after major rocket attack. So, all of these headlines, they might be true, but they're all doing one thing, and that is they're putting the part about Israel striking Gaza, they're putting that first, in the foremost, in the front of the headline. They're saying, Israel is striking Gaza, Israel is striking Gaza. They might mention the fact that, rockets were fired, but that's always after the fact. That's a minor detail. It's all about Israel striking Gaza, killing civilians. Of course not. Moving along, there was a demonstration in Samaria. So yesterday morning, there was a shooting attack outside the town of Avnei Hevetz, which is here in Samaria. And the residents of the town, they decided that enough was enough. They decided to take matters into their own hands and to demonstrate at the scene of the attack, which I think is really great. The head of the Shamron Regional Council, Yossi Dagan, was there. He was speaking in Hebrew, but there's a rough translation. I'm going to read part of what he said. This is what he said. Quote, "We are saying here to the cowardly barbarians who are thinking of shooting here and then running away like cowards, we are not afraid of you. We will travel and build here because this is our land. We stand here with a clear demand from the government. We elected you. We sent you to be a proud Jewish government and not a government that continues the promiscuous policies of the previous government. Come to your senses already. The entire nation of Israel expects you to barricade the checkpoints immediately. When they opened the checkpoints here, we protested and said that blood would be spilled here. The writing was on the wall, and we will never agree to be sitting ducks, and we will never accept that Jewish lives will be fair game here. If you don't close the checkpoints even after the attack, we will close the checkpoint ourselves because we will not abandon the lives of the residents of Samaria." So after all these attacks that have happened recently, and then there was another shooting attack yesterday, the residents of this town, the residents of Samaria, came out and were saying how much Jewish blood is enough, how much Jewish blood will be spilled before we do something major, before we do something drastic to stop this horrible terrorism. Guys, make sure to subscribe, get the conversation going down below. As always, tune out the fake news and tune into what is actually happening here in the land of Israel. We'll be back every week, Monday through Friday, with your direct connection to the land and people of Israel.